meeting of the St. Ben Senate to order at 5:00 p.m. Letter B, Executive Assistant Zima, roll call.
President Steenberg.
Here.
Vice President Weekly. Here. Trustee Andra.
Here.
Treasurer Tete.
Here.
Allocations Chair Stokes.
Here.
Public Regulations Representative Webster. Here. Senator Pelkey.
Here.
Senator Elmy. Here. Senator Greider. Here. Senator Weber.
Here.
Senator Ricker. Here. Senator Spalding. Here. Senator Wen. Here. Senator Flores. Here. Senator Thomas. Here. Senator Weir. Here. Senator Robinson. Here. Senator Simonet. Here. Advisor Close.
Excused.
Advisor Chairhar. Here. And St. John Senate Representative. Everything.
Thank you. Moving on to Roman numeral I, letter C, opening reflection, Senator Robinson.
Hey, hi everyone. So you'll notice that I put little little flashcards being by all of your desks. And I really believe in the idea of positive energy, and when you put good things into the atmosphere, those things do become true. So every Monday I call my grandma and we do an I am, I can, I will. So I am strong, I can be strong, I will be strong. And so just to start off the week and write out the rest of the semester and go write an I can statement, an I will statement, and an I can be statement. Or I will, I can, I am.
Should those all be the same word?
It doesn't have to be, but it helps.
That's the order anyway.
I will be, I can be, I am. And we can do like 5 minutes. Okay, looks like everyone has stopped writing. Is there anyone that wants to let us know their motivation for the week or their 3 I can statements?
I said I will be driven, I can't be driven, I am driven. And I did this because I have a large portion of my capstone paper due tomorrow by midnight. So this is my motivation.
Anyone else?
I took after our fearless leader, President Hinton, and said, I will be bold, I can be bold, I am bold.
Oh, okay. I can say that. I said I will be healthy, I can be healthy, and I am healthy because I'm just kind of, when it gets cold outside, I sort of lose my healthy side of my life, so just kind of remembering that.
Wait, if there's not anyone else.
Great, thank you so much, Senator Robinson. Moving on to letter D, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
There's been a motion by Senator Weir and a second by Treasurer Tete. Are there any changes to the minutes of last week's meeting? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of approving last week's minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes stand approved. Moving on to letter E, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. There's been a motion by Senator Weir and a second by Vice President Weekly. Are there any changes to today's agenda? Seeing none, you'll move to vote. All those in favor of approving today's agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda stands approved. Moving on to Roman numeral 2, guest, letter A, Yemi Fadadutsi. And your PowerPoint is pulled up and your Excel document as well, so if you just want to pop it there.
Hello, everyone. We are students from anthropology and sociology, and we are here to present about a conference that we would like to attend happening in April. My name is Yemi.
I'm Laura.
I'm Madeline.
I'm Abby.
I'm Aranza.
I'm Alex.
We'd like to go to the Society for Applied Anthropology and present at their conference happening between the 3rd and the 7th. It's the topic this year is about sustainable future, so how we can use applied anthropology to create a sustainable future.
Alright, so specifically what that will mean is we're looking at how applied anthropology is looking to meet the needs of the present without compensating or taking away from future generations. Specifically, that would be like looking at migration and displacement, climate change, technological processes, travel and mobility, all of these sort of things listed here on the PowerPoint. Our group specifically, me and Yemi will have things related to climate change in our posters, and we might be showing ETL's documentary, which will be looking at preservation of natural and heritage resources, like the sanctity of water. And we are having the rest of the group talk about education tools in the anthropology classroom. So what we plan to do specifically, I mentioned my poster is going to be from the research I did at COP22 in Morocco about climate smart agriculture and the UN's term of climate smart agriculture and what that means specifically, and I'll have an anthropological perspective on what it looks like on the ground, and I'll be presenting it to people at the conference.
And for my research, similar to Laura's, I'll be talking about the research I did at COP21, specifically on marginalized populations and how they see themselves represented in climate policy. Mappy also.
I will also be presenting a poster, and my poster is actually different from theirs. So it'll be about the border dispute between Chile and Peru and how it affected into their nationalism and identity within the group of people that were in that dispute through the 1880s and through the 1920s.
And then Aranza, Maddie, and I, and also Julia, who's not here, will be presenting with our two professors, Ellen Block and Megan Sheehan, who are part of the anthropological major and minor over at the St. John's campus. So I'll be working with Megan, and we'll be observing and just presenting a paper on how important it is to do observational research and just to get engaged in with our community to learn more about how to have anthropology in our everyday lives.
I'll be presenting on a video of the of some foreign exchange students here on campus, so CSB and SJU. And I'll be talking about nutrition and health and how they, in their countries, identify with nutrition and health, and how they identify with nutrition and health here at the St. John's community, how the differences has affected them, and how anthropology can expose what they feel and how their views are.
And I'm also working with Ellen to talk about along with Aranza, with video projects on classroom pedagogy or like classroom teachings to kind of show that you can further like understand like ethnographic methods in anthropology through video projects.
So our budget that we're asking for is $535 per person. So there's 7 of us, and this is kind of broken down by what the Senate, based off the Senate guidelines of 60% of transportation, and then full registration fee, and that goes to $535. And the total for all seven of us would be $3,745. And then the $750 that you see up there is the funding that we plan to get from the undergraduate research. So that's not actually Department of Sociology and Anthropology, it's undergraduate research. And we intend to apply to get that funding too. So that's how this is broken down.
So it's necessary that the money that we're asking for help us now sooner, because registration for the poster needs to be paid by the 31st. And then it'll just help us also arrange our flights, because costs will go up as time passes by.
So a few things that we want to bring back to the CSB SGU campus is that we want to gain a personal academic development, which means that we want to be able to know how we are able to network with other anthropologists, and also with our research, we want to know how we're able to present it, and as well as how other anthropologists have been able to put their research into use and into presenting it.
And we also want the anthropology major and minor to be kind of more active on campus. It's a pretty small major and minor, so we want everyone on campus, CSB and SJU, to understand how important it is to just experience some things with our department. And then we also want to just represent CSB SJU at a national conference, because the conference is in Philadelphia this year. Every year, I believe it is in a different state. So it'd be a really great opportunity for all 7 of us to have an experience bringing different parts, because we all are from different classes. So we're seniors, juniors, and sophomores. So I think it's really important to get a variety as well. And then we also just want to bring that back to Scholarship and Creativity Day, which would be on April 26th. It would be really great for us to have an opportunity to share what we learned at the conference, and also the posters that we've had brought over to the conference.
All right, thank you so much for listening.
Are there any questions for our guests today? Senator Simonet.
Thank you all so much for coming. I think this is a super important conference. I have 2 questions. One is just for clarification, can non-anthro majors or minors apply or come to the conference, or it seems like it's you, like 7 are going?
We are the 7 who were involved in it. We were told about it from our anthro classes, so we all do have some connection to either sociology or anthropology. I'm sure it was open to anyone, but it was pretty much just something told about to people in our major.
Okay. And then have you looked to the sociology or anthropology departments for money, or is this something that the departments can sponsor?
I'm not really sure about that. That's a good question.
We are going through the department for the undergraduate research grant, so they'll know about it, and our professors are the ones who kind of organized how we're going to get our money, so I'm sure if there was a way we could have done that, it would have been done, because it was the professors.
Thank you so much for coming in. I return my time.
And then just for question time, it might be helpful if you pull up the Excel spreadsheet of your cost breakdown too. Vice President Weekly.
Hi guys, thank you so much for coming in. This sounds so cool. Your guys' topics are all so different and awesome and unique, and that's so fun to hear. If you guys, do you have guaranteed money from undergrad research, or are you applying for the money?
We're applying for the money.
Okay, so if you guys don't end up getting the money, how else will you guys be funded? Do you guys know? Or?
Out of pocket,
Yeah.
potentially.
Okay, I return my time.
Trustee Young-Grog, strike. Senator Robinson.
Echoing what Senator Simonet said, thank you guys for coming. I just have 2 quick questions. So are you planning on this becoming a reoccurring theme that the anthropology department is going to want to be involved in?
I believe so. So we kind of can get anthropology out there more and just make it a bigger major and minor, like I had stated before. So it's really important with both of our professors. They're really, really dedicated into this. They're super excited, and they just want more students really involved. So hopefully this kind of brings it out for future students and classes.
I interestingly spoke with Ellen Block, the professor, and she said, yeah, she wants this to be a keeping on thing, a reoccurring thing, so for the future years to come.
And then just lastly, for the total cost, those are only including the students. The faculty would be funding themselves, or the department will be funding them? Yes. Alright, makes sense.
Treasurer Tate.
Thank you, ladies, so much for speaking from the CSB Senate. My only question is regarding the grant/scholarship you might be getting from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. So is that confirmed, or are you still in the process of trying to get that?
We're still in the process of trying to get that.
Alright, so what would happen if you don't get that? Or is it like 100% that you will be getting it?
We don't anticipate we wouldn't get that just because we meet the guidelines for asking for funding for the research. So it's just a matter of actually applying for it. But this is just kind of our first step to supplying ourselves funding.
And how did they, I don't know, you might not know this, but how did they arrive at the 750? Is it like a cap at 750?
Exactly, yeah, it's a cap. So I believe 750, including travel and things like that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Trustee Ungraf.
Thank you so much for coming. I love the presentation and the cost breakdown. My first question and my only question is, are any of the students making personal contribution, either traveling or is there anything that's coming out of your pocket? Is initially what I'm asking.
Yeah, it'll be the poster printing. We'll do that on our own, as well as one other thing. I think. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah.
Food.
So just the poster printing
Yeah, and food.
and food. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for our guests today? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Roman numeral 2, letter D, Mary Geller. And your Word document's pulled up. I don't know if you want to go off of that grade. Great.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be here. I will be grateful. I can be grateful. I am grateful. I really appreciate. I've been watching you all kind of running across campus to get here on time and settling in and things. I know that you're some of the busiest students on our campus, and yet you still find time to provide leadership to the institution. So I am very grateful. Thank you for having me here today. Usually every year I come to share the goals that I have as vice president. While they are my goals technically, it takes the entire division to accomplish them. So while I'd like to stand up here and say, I'm going to do all this, the reality is the Division of Student Development at the College of St. Benedict and St. John's do these things. Some of these things, toward the end, the goals are joint, but some of these things are St. Ben's only as well, so I'll try and delineate that. So for this year, we were asked to, actually I'd written my goals ahead of time, but then Mary Hinton had sent out kind of the way that she wanted to frame up the year. And so you probably have heard this, but she asked the overall question, who and how are we called to serve? So that's kind of the meta question that we're living into the answer toward this year. And underneath that question, who and how are we called to serve? Because we all see ourselves on cabinet as servant leaders. There's three main questions that she wanted us to kind of formulate our goals under, and it just so happened that mine fit very neatly under each of those three questions. So the first question was, as a campus community, how do we advance our equity and inclusion ecosystem? And this is something, of course, that Dr. Hinton feels really passionately about. It's something that I've spent a significant portion of my career here at St. Ben's advancing. And then, what does it mean to be a college for women today? And this is a question that I contributed because, it's an aspect that I don't think that we've revisited very well in terms of St. Ben's being a college for women. For a lot of students, it's irrelevant to their choice for coming here, but we know that for a lot of students, it's a huge difference, that they can articulate why it mattered. And we haven't really done a good job of describing what it means to be a women's college today. We know why women's colleges were founded. We didn't have the opportunity for education like most men did at the time. That's not the case anymore. So what does it mean today to be a college for women, and how do we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace? And then the third question, how do we support internal collaboration and dialogue within and between the two campuses? And this came up when we did our salon, the first salon on what does it mean to be a college for women today. And I think there was representation from Senate there. I think there was. No, you were actually in the Senate meeting, never mind. The IWL was there. One of the things that we talked about, we came away with 3 takeaways from that salon and what it means to be a women's college today. And one of them was that we need to, what is the term we use now? I'm trying to think. We need, well, I can't remember what the word is, but we have to stop the internal comparison between St. John's and St. Ben's. We spend a lot of time kind of comparing, and the example that I gave at the forum that we had is, I held up the record, and we have these beautiful new athletic fields that are being built. But the quote in the record was, from a student was, how come we don't have a climbing wall? We never get the fun things. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're spending millions of dollars in their new athletic facilities, and the climbing wall is the issue. So it's like, how can we really examine ourselves and say, we're not each other's competition. The U of M and St. Thomas is our competition. So how can we be happy and grateful and celebrate one another, but not be in competition with one another? So that's an example of that third question. So around all of these questions, the board work this year, the cabinet work, are all framed to answer and address these 3 questions. So I'm sure you've probably seen them and you'll continue to see them throughout the year. So to that end, my goal is to advance our identity as a college for women. Specifically, I want to secure the AIM program, the Advocates for Inclusive Mentoring, focused on creating a dynamic mentor program for underrepresented CSB students, and I would like to get grant funding. Actually, this year I was able to hire Sydney, and she's really taken off with the program, so we've got great leadership. And Hannah Salto, who is working with our first-gen students, graciously agreed to take this program on, and so she and Sydney are leading this whole initiative this year. I don't know if you recall, we piloted the program last year, and it was a huge success, so we're moving it forward. And then we'll be looking this year at where it's going to best fit, where it should be housed, some of those kinds of things. My second goal is to continue to advance CSB athletics as a dominant women's program in the MIAC. And we'll do this by opening and celebrating the new outdoor fields for, well, it should be CSB athletics and campus recreation. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the fields, but they're beautiful. The grass is coming in. We'll have a great place for our rugby players, our lacrosse team, our soccer, softball, and we'll have some really wonderful opportunities for intramural sports out there come spring. So we're looking forward to that. We think the building should be completed by about February. We expect to take possession at that time. We want to continue to advance the new athletic brand. We're completely rebranding athletics. We have a new font that we use for athletics now. We're kind of labeling ourselves Benny Nation, and we'll be rolling that out as we move along. And actually, we will be in conversation with Senate this spring to talk about how we can partner with you, and when we're ready for our big splash. We are going to strive to be second in the all sports race, and a lot of people see like, why second? And what we say in the MIAC, which is our athletic conference, is second is the new first, because St. Thomas is so far ahead of everybody else. Their facilities, their recruiting, their budget is out of almost everybody else's in the MIAC's league. So St. Thomas is so dominant in the MIAC that the gap between first and second is so significant that everybody except St. Thomas now basically says that second in the MIAC is now the new first. So, and so far we're doing really well. Our fall sports have been absolutely amazing. So I'm really, really proud of our young women and their competition. And then we're going to broaden the work of the IWL. This is the 12th year of the IWL. And this started out as a student initiative 12 years ago, but it's become more sophisticated over time. And I just felt like it was time for us to take a year and do a lot of like reflecting about where are we now and where do we want to be going forward, what's working, what do we want to change. So we're going to be taking a look at that, and we're adding a new spring break trip this year to Paris. So this is for students who have never really studied abroad before, would like to go abroad, but aren't comfortable maybe doing it themselves. And so we want to teach our young women how to go to a new country, figure it out, and be comfortable moving around the world. And then our May term trip is slated for Rwanda, which is our first time that we'll be going to the African continent, and we're pretty excited about that. To advance our inclusion and equity ecosystem, we're going to advance the work of the CSB Development Division as it relates to campus inclusion by conducting an internal IISS program review. For those of you that don't know, every 5 years, each of the departments in student development undergo a complete and thorough program review. There's a 10-point process that each director has to go through and answer all the questions. We usually bring an external evaluator in. We have decided at this time that we're not going to bring in an external evaluator because we know what they're going to tell us, that they're not well enough staffed and we don't have enough money. And it just seems kind of, we decided it was silly to pay all this money to bring somebody in to tell us that because we know that already. So, Brandon is working on that. We're going to continue our work with Mellon in the hopes that we get a renewed grant. Hopefully we should know in December. And the Intercultural Directions Council is working with Mellon to conduct a campus-wide climate survey. I can tell you more about that some other time if you'd like to know. We have refocused the membership and work of the Intercultural Directions Council as it relates to institutional goals. I'm happy to send that PowerPoint maybe to you, President Stever, because I think that I have some goals on there that you all can just review. I don't need to necessarily tell you right now, but I can tell you this. The IDC has about 22 really committed faculty and staff who are looking at significant goals this year to try and advance the institution based on some of the work we did last year with the Inclusion Visioning Days and the feedback from the Mellon Grant. We had talked about creating a half-time position in counseling focused on addressing the psychological stress of minoritized students because I feel like maybe that's something that we need that we don't currently have. And so we're going to try and do that. We don't have any new funding, so we'd have to do it through reapplications. So I have to see if I'm going to have that opportunity or not this year. We will be creating an inclusion, the student development departments will develop inclusion plans. I want them to identify gaps and innovative solutions that transform our work and help students feel like they belong. And the example that I give often is, as budgets get tighter, we tend to want to charge for some of our services and some of our programs, and how does that exclude students who perhaps can't afford those programs and services? When we hold a program off campus, how does that affect students who don't have transportation? I mean, we really have to think about when we hold our programs, how can we be as inclusive as possible? The Intercultural Development Inventory is a way to measure one's intercultural competency. So hopefully we're going to have everybody in the Student Development Division take this and do a personal assessment, and then their goals, their professional development goals needs to include an opportunity for them to advance along their own personal spectrum wherever they may lie. And then we need to provide leadership for critical incidences and guidance on controversies. Given where we are in the country right now, we know that there are situations that can come up that affect us on campus. We want to be more agile, and we want to be able to be transparent and communicative when it comes to issues, both on our campus and in our world. So to that end, we have developed a new team, and we're going to be meeting twice a month to do environmental scanning about what's going on out there, and how should we respond? And this is a joint team, so hopefully we'll do better responding together. And then we have to address the increasing affordability gaps in our student body. So in particular, the area that I've chosen this year is campus ministry. We need to create a case statement for campus ministry for funds for ABE trips and for retreats. Our retreat programs have grown, and I know that there are students who would like to go on ABE, but it's just not an option for them, so I'd like to find a way to endow the ABE program so nobody has to pay to go on a service trip. And so nobody has to pay if they want to attend our retreats. And then our Latinx Ministries program is growing significantly, and I think that's a great opportunity for grants. So we're looking at that right now as well. We're going to be systematizing and tracking departmental institutional funds for experiential learning. We have seen an exponential increase in the amount of students coming and asking us for money to do conferences, to travel, to participate in any kind of experiential learning opportunity. And we're not doing a very good job of tracking that. So like if you as a Senate allocate funds, but there's still a gap in funding, and that student goes to the president's office, and then they go to Jody, and then they come to me, and then they go to, we're not keeping a list of all of that and tracking that over a 4-year period. So sometimes in looking back, we find that there are some students over a 4-year period who've gotten significantly more funds than other students who perhaps didn't have the connections that other student did have. So we're trying to find a way to systematize it and to make it more fair. And then finally, my goal was to create a Benny Career Closet, and we're on our way. We're collecting donations right now. We have a room. We have stuff in the room, things. We have places to hang the clothes and that kind of thing. This all came about since fall, so I'm really proud. Again, Sydney's really involved in this, and Marsha Malum, and I just felt like, it was just time for us to provide an opportunity to have clothing for any student who doesn't have transportation or the means to get an outfit. We've got some really cute stuff today from Ann Taylor. So we're trying to be specific. Like we don't want like 80s like wool suits. We want nice things. So and somehow the message is getting out there, because I can tell you this morning Hannah was opening up the boxes and there was just some adorable clothes in there. So. And then from an even greater perspective and a joint perspective, these are some things that Father Doug and I are working on. We need to support the institutions, the cabinets, and the board of trustees in preparing for the HLC site visit. You'll be hearing more about that. I'm sure you've heard some about that. That is our accreditation body. They'll be visiting us. We've been writing that report for the last 2 years. We need to provide collaborative leadership with academic affairs in developing comprehensive learning outcomes for students in and outside the classroom. You'll be hearing more about that. We've completed that. We now have one list of learning outcomes. Student development had their own, academic affairs had theirs. Academic affairs had been really dated. We now combine them, and there's one list of learning outcomes for students. We need to advance the work of the Alcohol Task Force in making progress in decreasing negative behavior as a result of alcohol use. And given all of the conversations that have been happening around this, the wording of this is really important, because I wrote this in June, long before what happened this fall happened. And if you please look at how it's worded. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any drinking. What I'm saying is we want to decrease the negative behavior as the result of alcohol use. And I think that's a very different statement of saying we don't want any, alcohol use. So please know that that's what we're focusing on, is the negative behavior.
Mary, just briefly, would you mind just flipping the page on
Oh, sorry.
the document?
It's not a touch screen.
Thank you.
There we go. Yep. And then we will need to continue to provide collaborative leadership and legal guidance in reviewing and modifying the institutional policy and procedures regarding sexual misconduct to ensure legal compliance in a process that is fair and rightfully managed. This work has become a huge part of our job over the last 5 years. And again, like I said, I wrote this in June before Betsy DeVos came out with her changes. So that has added a whole different level of attention that we need to pay to in regard to where this is going to go and what we're going to be required to do or not to do. And along with Dean Terhar, we're certainly monitoring all of this. And then finally, to provide collaborative leadership, which will teach our students civic engagement, civil discourse, and resilience. And to that end, we did the Charlottesville series, and there'll probably be another series in the spring.
Great. Are there any questions for Vice President Geller? Senator Robinson.
I have a question.
Treasurer Take.
So I have a question and a comment. So I'll start with the comment. So the comment, I really, really love the halftime position in counseling because I know I had struggles with this semester. Like, so from my first year till right now, I've seen at least 6 of my friends leave because of sort of just mental issues and things like that. So I'm very happy that there is effort being put towards that issue. So I just had a question about the IDI. So I know you mentioned that in April that you're hoping to see all the staff members in the student development offices conduct the IDI. So is that just limited to so is that just limited to the staff in the student development offices, or also the workers, or different departments?
You mean outside of student development?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm doing it for student development because it's expensive. And so I'm including it as part of my professional development budget for the staff. I'm also realizing that I think April is a little bit ambitious, just because you take the survey and then you'd spend about 2 hours with a trained facilitator processing it and learning kind of maybe where your strengths and weaknesses are. And so I have to do that for about 72 employees. So if I can get through that and depending upon what I learn, I'll probably maybe bring that back to the cabinet and suggest it to other divisions.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Great.
Are there other questions for Vice President Gallagher? Seeing none. Oh, Senator Senate.
Thank you so much for coming. I know last semester was very, very emotional, a lot going on, and I can see that there's so many changes being done and that the administration really heard our voices, so thank you for that. And I do see some of it, but I was wondering if you could address how like the Charlottesville series was incredible, and it's really important that our students do go, but sometimes I do feel like it's the same students who are going to these enriching experiences that allow us to engage in dialogue that's very difficult. But I think that as we go on into the world as Bennies, all of us should have those skills and should be able to have a conversation about like mass incarceration and structural racism, institutional racism. So I'm wondering like how is that like being addressed? And I see it with these things, but a lot of times it's not mandatory. And I know that there are some classes that students like have to go to, but it doesn't always mean like liberation theology or something. It could be different types of theology. Or, yes, I was just saying if you could address that.
Wow, that is a great question. If I had the answer, I'd probably be a consultant. All I can say is, I was just at the rabbi speaker last night. I don't know if anybody was there. And I think for me, I think the best thing we could do is continually offer opportunities. People are going to, people are developed in many different ways, and they're going to enter a conversation where they feel comfortable, right? So where I feel comfortable entering a conversation may not be where somebody else feels comfortable entering a conversation. So we have to be able to allow for many different programs and opportunities. So like Nathan the Wise, I don't know if you went to that play. That was a fantastic play about, which is the one real true religion, Islam, Judaism, or Catholicism. That wasn't necessarily a program per se. It was an academic play, right? But it had incredible themes for conversation. So I don't think it's just what we do in student development, I think it's what we do across the institutions and allowing students to just engage and participate as much as possible. If a student really does not want to be challenged, you just can't force it, right? The reason we did Charlottesville the way we did it is because in every single one of those series, there were students there who were asked to be there for a class, who may not otherwise have been there. In student development, we can't require students to come to our programs. So that's why we like to partner with faculty sometimes and have programs where students are required because of a course to get there, because that's how we think we might get some of those students who might not otherwise come. So I just say keep hope alive and just keep the work going.
Thank you so much. Our turn with that.
Treasurer Tate.
Okay, so you mentioned something about changes in like the within the ISS department. So what are you hoping to see with the whole review going on in the ISS office?
Well, actually, we kind of got ahead of ourselves because what I was hoping is I would get a new position, and I got that. Dr. Hinton worked her miracles, and she was able to get a grant, and so we have, actually we just interviewed somebody, we're in the process of interviewing candidates for a program coordinator position in IISS. So we'll be adding a new staff position to that area. Normally, you go through a program review, in almost every single case says we're understaffed, we're under budgeted. At campus ministry, campus recreation, residential life, I mean, if there's one thing that's consistent, that's what they always say. And I just tell them, we're Catholic, so, sharpen your pencil because we're not getting any money. So we kind of knew that was going to be the case. But what we want to know is, are we putting our time and our energy into the most high impact programs and practices? Because we only have infinite human and fiscal resources, and we have to use them the best way possible. So every program review is basically asking, are we using our time, talent, and treasure to the best of our abilities in trying to meet our student learning outcomes?
Thank you. My last question is, how can students get involved with your with helping you sort of shape your fiscal year, your goals for the fiscal year?
That is a great question, and maybe what I would suggest is that I would come in the spring, or if there's a time, I write my goals in the summer, so I don't know if I would do it with the Senate in the spring or come to your retreat in the fall. And maybe they're drafted until I meet with the Senate in the fall and we talk about them together. So then we talk about your goals and we talk about my goals and we try and see where they match or they merge.
Thank you very much.
Senator Greiger.
Thank you so much for coming. I know we talked about it actually at our retreat, your goals, so it was really nice to see those and hear updates on those. My question is, you've listed a few, could you just name all of the departments that fall under student development? There's probably a lot.
Jody, you can help me if I forget any.
Okay.
So I'll try and start up in Mary Commons. So we have Residence Life, Upward Bound, Campus Ministry. And then we have IASS, the Dean of Students, and that includes conduct. We have, all the Title IX. We have student activities, orientation, leadership. We have athletics and campus recreation. And then we have the health center, counseling, health education. And then I chair the, that's the division pretty much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Vice President Geller? Seeing none, thank you very much.
My door is always open. I would love to hear from you if you ever have any ideas. Please come and see me.
Thank you. Moving on to Roman numeral 2, letter C, Michelle, welcome back.
Thank you. Okay, so I have some updated material for you all.
And your PowerPoint and class breakdown are also
Perfect,
all
thank
up
you.
and ready to go.
Okay, so first of all, I would just like to start off by saying thank you to President Steenberg and Treasurer Tate, as well as the advisor Jody Terhart and Mary Geller for taking the time to sit down with us after our last funding request and really kind of advise us on where the Senate guidelines are. That was really helpful, and I think it'll be immensely beneficial moving forward. So really thank you. I appreciate the time that you took out of your days to meet with us. And then after our meeting, Mary and I kind of sat down and revised our funding guidelines to better suit the Senate's interests as well. So this is our updated version. So really wanted to look at the partnership between the IWL and the Senate because they're both very impactful organizations on campus. So I kind of included the mission statements here. So we have the IWL's mission is to empower women to become local and global leaders by engaging in inclusive dialogue, reflective thinking, and values-based leadership that celebrates and recognizes women as the shapers of our world. As well as Senate's mission, which I'm sure you all know, is the St. Ben Senate will maintain viable and inclusive relationships with the student body and members from the administration, faculty, and staff of the College of St. Benedict. Furthermore, as leaders on campus, we seek to preserve a strong relationship with the St. John's Senate and make ethical decisions predicted on Benedictine values instituted by the College of St. Benedict. So I really think that kind of shows the partnership that both of these organizations have on campus. So our request for funding is a total of $8,450. The breakdown of costs would be the Girl Boss training that we have, Gender Summit, Self-Defense training, Yoga and Body Positivity, and SheFest, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail right here. So our Girl Boss training is actually happening right now, so you don't have anything going on at 7 o'clock. Make sure you go to the Start Smart Wage negotiation tonight. But our request for that is $450, and basically the purpose of that is to teach Bennies the values and lessons that you can really gain from the future while helping them develop the skills and the confidence to really move forward in their personal and professional careers. So we had a 4-day series of that. Sunday we had networking with Judy Zimmer. Tuesday we had the resumes, cover letters, interviews with career services. Wednesday was is Start Smart Wage negotiation, and then Thursday will be a positive mindset with Glenn Warner. Gender Summit is also one of our flagship events that we do throughout the year. We're requesting $2,000. If you actually flip to the second page of your handout, that'll have the cost breakdown of where we're requesting funds from. So we're asking $2,000 from the St. Ben Senate, and then MDI will go to St. John's Senate and ask them to match the funding request that St. Ben Senate provides. Then the IWL will contribute $1,000 from their pocket, MDI will contribute $1,000 from theirs, and then the gender department will come in with $500. And so for this, we're doing a keynote speaker. It'll be a 4-day build-up. So there'll be a documentary showing a ally training, then the actual presentations where students will come and present their research on gender. We'll also have TED Talks, which will be hosted by professors and students. That'll be 20-minute talks. And then we'll end with a keynote speaker, Amy Zeisler. And she is going to do a presentation on really media and pop culture, so we don't change the channel, change the culture. So that's really we're hoping to get a common focus in there as well. Then our self-defense training will be November 15th. For that, we're requesting $1,000 in order to provide the hands-on physical training with the pads that will be coming. This is really important because in our past we've just had programs where the students are just told different self-defense techniques. However, that really hasn't proved to be effective because after they'll say, it's we know all of this, we want to learn what's a physical move that we can do to get out of a situation and really gain that confidence. And with that, we'll also be bringing a St. Joe police officer to kind of tell you the real threats that are happening in the community and what you can do to watch out for yourself. And then our final request is for Jasmine Stanley. So I actually was able to attend the AAUW conference in Washington, D.C. this summer and was able to see Jasmine speak, and this is one of the conferences we go to really gain understanding of and kind of have a first-hand experience with that. So she'll be coming in to do a brunch with a leader, a yoga session, and a body positivity session. So she's Instagram famous. She's amazing. She was so fun to have a a workshop with, and I've had my staff do some of her videos during our sessions, so she's really an inspiration and I'm excited to see her on campus. And then, also for Women's Month, we'll be having Kyla Lacey come in, who was a suggestion from JEC for us to bring in that they noticed she was coming in. She'll be doing a slam poetry piece, and she was actually voted the best female artist, so she'll be coming in for Women's Month, and so her honorarium is $1,000. So thank you for your time. Are there any questions you'd like to record?
Are there any questions for our guests today? Senator Greiger.
Okay, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so excited with all the events you guys have planned, and I've loved them so far this semester. My question is if you wouldn't mind going back to the Jetsonian one.
Yes.
So originally the request was higher, so I have a few questions about it. So were you able to seek funding from other?
No, we
places,
just
or-
I just have basically been going through and rearranging our budget to kind of fit into a more feasible request. So I've just been cutting out different aspects of our programs to really maximize our funding as much. So her total honorarium is going to be $11,000, and then including her airfare, and then the IWL will just pay out of pocket whatever can't be met, and ideally partnering with the aerobics department and athletics, but again funds aren't really there, so just kind of working to partner with them for attendance.
Great. So with there being a session, is there an attendance cap, or how many venues do you anticipate being able to attend?
Yeah, so with the brunch with the leader, that'll be 20, and then the yoga session, I'm assuming will be 50, just because that's how many fits in the studios, unless we can find a different space for that. But that's the anticipated session, and then there will also be the body positivity, which will be an upper Gretzky, so that could be 200.
Great. Thank you. I return my time.
Vice President Weekly.
Hi, thank you so much for coming in and being patient and flexible with all the switches that have been made. I have a question and also a suggestion. My question is, I'm just curious as to why, specifically regarding the Gender Summit, why the St. John's and St. Ben Senates are being requested to contribute more money than the IWL and MDI.
Yeah, so for that, MDI is solely funded through Senate, so that's where they get all of their funds is through St. John's Senate. And then just really with that, it's our big event, and kind of what we discussed, we talked about this a little bit in our meeting, but we really have a broad scope, so being able to break down requests for honorariums is Andy Zeisler's honorarium is $5,000 for her to come, so being able to kind of break that down and just have clean cut. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Thank you. And then my suggestion was, for the yoga class, have you thought about going to a long haul at all? Because I know a couple of years ago when yoga sculpt classes got super popular, they just moved them to a long haul so that everybody could participate.
Yeah, that's what we were planning on doing, so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I return it.
Senator Pelkey. Senator Spalding. Are there any other questions for Treasurer Tate?
This is not a question, but I just want to reiterate what everyone has said. Thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much for your patience, your understanding, the questions. I could really see how passionate you are about the events you put on, and with that, thank you so much for seeking funding from the CSB Senate. So with that, I return my time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Michelle? Seeing none, thank you very much. All right, moving on to Roman numeral 2, letter D, open forum. Are there any guests wishing to address the St. Ben Senate today? Seeing none, we'll move on to Roman numeral 3, board reports, President's, letter A, President's report. Without objection, the chair will pass.
Accept.
All right, hello everyone, and happy Wednesday. Sounds like it's a pretty stressful week for most people, so I hope that you're making it through all right, and just keep chugging along, keep making progress, stay on task. So I want to start off a little rough. We're going to talk a little bit of parliamentary procedure, so just bear with me. So these were just a couple things that I noted during our last meeting. So talking about yielding your time. First of all, yielding your time should only be done if someone has a question or you have a point that is very directly related to what they're saying. Not just another comment related to that or something disagreeing, really something very closely related to what they're saying or directly responding to a question someone might be asking. And when you do yield your time, something I've noticed, like if someone puts their thumb out, you'll stop yourself mid-sentence and go to yield. That just kind of means, hey, like, look at me, like I'm over here, whenever you finish your thought, I have something to say. So feel free, if someone puts their thumb out to yield their time, finish your thought, say what you're gonna say, and then yield your time. And the phrase is, I yield my time to XYZ, that person talks, and then when you're done yielding your time, you say, I return my time to Senator Weber, or whoever it might be. So that's just super base level of that. Another thing, just this is for me, first of all, when you're speaking in meetings, do make sure to speak up, speak clearly, speak confidently, speak slowly can help as well. And then don't mumble, I return my time. That can get really tough for me to know when you're done talking. And sometimes I might be writing something or distracted for a minute. So it helps if you just say clearly, I return my time. That'll just help me. And my third point that I have here, so any questions that you have for presenters should fully be asked during question time under letter 2, under the guest section. I've noticed in past meetings, and especially last week, questions will come up during debate, which is natural. And oftentimes they'll kind of be looking to me to answer the questions, and I have about the same level of information as all of you, and so I don't necessarily know more either. And so what I think that this requires is really critically looking at the funding request materials that you're given in advance. That is why I email them out either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, and I try to get those to you as fast as I can, and as soon as I get the materials. So really look at those critically, look at them with your funding guidelines in front of you, be thinking about questions that you're gonna ask, take some time to brainstorm some questions or any issues that you might see with it, and then come in and ask that during question time. So I just wanted to make that point. You're all doing extraordinarily well overall, so I don't mean to be overly critical, I just want to get those points out of the way. The next point that I want to comment on, I noticed during board reports some committee leaders are saying that they're having trouble with attendance at committee meetings. If you are on a committee, you have made a commitment to that group and to the mission of that committee, and you should be at those meetings. So try to make time in your schedules. I know that sometimes you do have conflicts and those come up, but if it's a regular thing, that's going to be an issue. Heads up for not next week, but the week after, Brandon Woodard is going to come in and do a cultural sensitivity training with us after the Senate meeting. So just know that on November 8th, Brandon is coming in, so come mentally ready for that, and just prepared to engage. Gosh, I got a lot of things from President's Report today. The other thing is you should have all seen the registration link for the Student Leadership Summit go out. That's on November 12th. Even though you're on Senate, you do need to register for that. That'll help our attendance numbers, and as a little bonus, the first people to sign up, if you don't already have one, you'll get a free t-shirt. So, and that's a limited supply. And then my last point that I want to make, I just also want to touch on the IWL funding request. Again, thank you, Michelle, so much for being flexible with this and being willing to take a lot of time to help us out here as well. And I just want to address the fact that most of these things are honorariums, and this is something that we discussed during our meeting together, because basically the idea with funding an honorarium is that we're funding the mission of that event. We're not just saying like, we're gonna bring this person on campus, but we're bringing everything that that person brings with them and everything that we want to bring for our bennies on campus. So we're not just bringing a yoga instructor on campus because she's a yoga instructor and because the IWL requested it. We're bringing a yoga instructor on campus to talk about self-love and talk about body positivity and to really empower our bennies to be comfortable in exactly who they are and be willing to go outside of their boundaries. So I just wanted to touch on why we're seeing most of it being honorariums is because it's then the Senate contributing to the event as a whole, was the idea of that and the character of that. And that's the end of my report, so I return my time.
Are there any questions for President Seaverage? Seeing none, the chair will pass back.
I accept. All right, moving on to letter B, advisors report, Advisor Terhar.
Well, I brought you little Halloween treats. I know it's a little bit early, but there are stores that have Christmas things up already, so I don't think it's too terribly early, but just a little treat to say, hey, happy Halloween, and enjoy some chocolate treats and some other things that are in there. The second thing is at last week's meeting, I talked about being kind and how important that was and sometimes how hard it is. And my message for tonight is to encourage you to always think critically. There has been a lot of stuff going on campus, in the wider world, and I think there's a lot that gets presented to all of us as these very simple, if it was just this way, everything would be fine. If we just made this little change, everything would be fine. If we could just move in this direction, everything would be fine. And really, a lot of the issues that we're dealing with on campus and in the broader world are so much more complicated than that. If it was easy to find an answer, everybody would quickly do it. Things are much more complicated, and oftentimes they're complicated because two things that are true are coexisting even if those two truths are in conflict with each other. And how do we sort through those moments and those experiences? So what I invite you to do or challenge you to do as you're thinking critically, what that means to me is asking questions, asking a lot of questions. And oftentimes when I have conversations with my kids at home or they're pondering something, I oftentimes will say, well, you heard this news story, what do you think they're not telling you? What isn't being shared as part of this story, and where do you go to get that information? Because everybody presents information with a bias. You're gonna hear a bias in what I'm sharing here with you tonight. But I think it's really important to ask questions. And one of those important questions is what is this particular source of information not telling me? And I don't mean because it's a conspiracy or anything like that, but there's a limited time and package in which we can present information. I think it's really important to always be seeking more information. Now that I know this, what more do I need to know? Who else do I need to talk to? What else might I need to add? What else might I need to completely formulate my idea? There's always more information that is out there. Don't stop because you've gotten the information that already supports what it is that you believe, what you want, or the direction that you want to go. Seek information beyond that. Seek information that is maybe contrary to the thing that you want to know or do or expect, so that you can fully be informed about that thing. I think it's important to seek out people who have ideas that are different than yours, information that is different than yours, or a perspective that is different than yours. A lot of times we surround ourselves with people who think the way that we think. And when we're particularly distressed about something or want something to change, we surround ourselves with others who want that same kind of thing, because that's great, it's rewarding, it's energizing. But it's important to also pull other people in who may say, are you really sure that's the direction you want to go? Or have you ever given thought to this? Or I kind of disagree with the way that you want to do that because here's my experience. There's a lot that's out there, and I sometimes make the mistake of reading comments on the St. Cloud Times and other things. But I think a lot of what people, if it hasn't happened to them directly, they think it must not be true. Right? I've never had that happen before. I've never had that experience. But I think it's really important as part of thinking critically to remember that just because I haven't had the experience, or I might not even know someone who has had that experience, the fact that someone else is speaking of it as an experience that they have had, it's okay for that. You can still accept the fact that that's true for that person. We don't need to dismiss the experience or perspective of someone else just because it's not one that I'm familiar with. So I really want you to engage in that process of thinking critically. It's an incredibly important part of developing as an adult and being a fully participating member of our society, and engaging in the true kind of civil discourse that we need to make the changes that we hope to have, not just here on campus, but in the wider world. I return my time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Advisor Terhar? Vice President Weekly.
Not a question, just a comment. Thank you. I needed that today, and I think maybe a lot of other people did too. It's been a week, so thank you very much. I return my time.
Senator Simonet.
I also thank you. Every week it's a Wednesday that we have our St. Ben's meetings, and each time you truly inspire me and you inspire all of us. And I do have a much better week and do much better in everything that I do because of what you say. And you're saying, you know, there's lots of controversial issues going on our campus and in our greater world, and I think the advice you gave us is what we need to do. Like, if we could all do this, we wouldn't have this world that we're living in now. So thanks for making us better leaders and better people each week. And I return my time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Can I say one other thing that I forgot? I do have to leave at like 6:35 because Carrie Shane Davis Zimmerman is doing her first follow-up presentation to the orientation in the first year halls, and I've made a commitment to getting to each one of those to introduce myself to the first year students, particularly around reporting sexual assault or sexual misconduct kinds of things. So if I duck out, that's why.
Are there any other questions for Advisor Terhar? Seeing none, thank you very much. Advisor Kleiss.
Thank you. Sorry to be late today. It is true there are not many people that can speak so succinctly and offer so much advice in such a short period of time, and succinctly, concisely, and such great points. So thank you for that. And we professors talk all the time about critical thinking, so it is really important. All right, I have one item to report on, and this is a document that I will share with you, but I asked you for feedback, and boy, I got feedback. We received feedback, and so I'm going to share just a couple right now because I am sensitive to our time, but I will share the whole document, and there's nothing in here that everyone should not see, all right, double negative. Let's say everyone should see these because you had a lot of great ideas. World peace was one, just kidding, they said, but some clever ideas. So I'm taking it from big picture, Jody's big picture, to the here and now. How can we make this room better? Some recess every 45 minutes. Move the chairs around. I thought this was, I'm just picking and choosing not my favorite, just a few in here. Visual aid to show where everyone is at on their projects, like an online document. Let's see, recesses during meetings when they get long. Everyone needs a minute. Much on food. Free food every time. Foot rests, love that. Cookies, cupcakes, and candy, oh my. Roller chairs to sit in. No, and there were some more serious ones too. Everyone's amazing, you ladies rock. Comments, encourage new voices. Get pictures done and posted sooner. So many things here, but one that I will act on right now is a listing of, hey, it would be nice to get to know our advisors better, maybe a lunch invite would be nice. So I'm going to send around a sign up to get started on that, and tonight. And one was food like after the Little League games where you come afterwards, because I think we don't have food at the meetings, right? Like we're a little social gathering afterwards. There were so many good ideas, and those are just a few that I'm reading off this list, but I will share the whole document. Thank you for taking the time to write some notes and give some input, and if you still may. So if you weren't here and didn't have a chance, or you have other ideas, feel free to send it to me. I'll make the document public, and by giving it to our board and letting them publish it. So all right, I return it.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Advisor Kleiss? Seeing none, thank you very much. That's awesome. Moving on to letter C, Executive Board Report, PR Representative Webster.
Oh yeah. So the executive board met last night and we had a pretty short meeting. We just talked about the presenters who are coming in today. And Wendy gave us, Treasurer Atete gave us an exciting budget update that she'll share in a couple minutes. Then we also talked about photos because we finally have them back, and me and my PR assistant will be working this week and next week to get everything in the board and online updated. And then we also talked about festival cultures coming up and encouraging everyone to sign up to volunteer. I'm sure more information on that will come, but just kind of touching on how cool of an event that is and how cool of an opportunity is that we get to volunteer for a cool event like that.
Are there any questions for PR Representative Webster? Vice President Weekly.
Thank you for your hard work with the photos. I know it was tough to get everyone together and to get them all together, and I know that it's a lot easier said than done to get them all together in a short amount of time. So thank you. I return my time.
Are there other questions for Senator Simonet?
Just a very logistical question. So if we're using our Senate pictures on social media, on LinkedIn, or any of these things, should we have photo credit for Jenna, or how should we go?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I can't force you to do that, but I mean, that would be really nice to include. And I can send out her first and last name in Slack. I was gonna say snack. Slack after this, so you can do that. Thanks for bringing that up.
I return my time.
Are there any other questions for PR Rep Webster? Seeing none, thank you very much. Letter D, co-funding board report, club allocations, Chair Stokes.
Alright, so co-funding board made a few allocations on Monday. Our first was $285 to Irish Dance Club for their t-shirts for the Festival of Cultures. Our second was $276 to the Spanish Club for their speaker fee. The next was $2,000 to the Trap Shooting Club for the rest of the remainder semester of their fees. And then our next one was $144 to the Com Club for the specific props. We tabled a few motions. Then our next one was $250 for Heist for their speaker fee. And then a new club, we allocated $81 to United Politics for their first event, which is Thirsty for Dialogue Thursday food. And then our next allocation was $500 to Enactus for the Chicago business trip. That's what's going on soon. And I return my time.
Are there any questions for club allocations, Chair Stokes? Seeing none, thank you very much. Letter F, budget update, Treasurer Tay.
Thank you. Alright, so ladies, like PR Buster mentioned, I have some great news regarding our budget. So President Steinberg and I spent some time looking at the budget and did some recalculations. And we have an exciting amount of $5,000. It was hidden somewhere in the budget, but we found it. Okay, so with that being said, we currently have spent $25,714. So that is 47% of our budget. And we currently have $29,323.44. One more time. $29,323.44. And with that, I'll turn my time.
Are there any questions for Treasurer Tay? Seeing none, thank you very much. Moving on to letter F, St. John Senate update, Senator Jones.
Good afternoon, thank you for having me, happy to be here. So first, the fire department came in and showed us the new uniforms that we allocated the money for. They're pretty nice. They say that their productivity has gone up because of them. They've felt safer on the job, they feel more equipped to do their work, so that's great. James Macias came in to talk about taking Johnny to lunch day. He just wanted our help to promote that, get that out to the community. I'm not sure if there's an equivalent for that at St. Ben's, because I know that's put on by the Office of the Very St. John specifically. So I don't know if there's an equivalent, but he expressed interest in figuring out how to get Benny's involved. So I don't know if you guys want to reach out to him or someone in that who does that kind of work on this ones. But yeah, that was that. St. John basketball came in and we allocated $750 to them for their halftime event. So they have the halftime half-court shot. The Alexandria Aces came for Tommy Johnny, those little kids who were spinning the balls on the Then we allocated $4,550 to ETL for their travel documentary. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with that, but it's a very, very interesting thing. I suggest that you guys familiarize yourself a little bit more with it. The OLC, we allocated $2,550 to them for their various events, beach trips, etc., things like that. They did switch up their presentation to us compared to the presentation that they gave you guys. So yeah, there's that. They're using student suggestions for the logos instead of for us. Oh yes, we had spent about 25% of our budget. We have about $36,000 left. Yes, I remember.
Are there any questions for? You can have it back.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. So I'll try.
Are there any questions for Senator Jones? Seeing Treasurer Tate.
I have a question, but thank you so much for joining us here today. And I'll dress up too. You look nice. I return my time.
Any other? Senator Thomas.
I just want to echo Treasurer Tate. Thank you for having us. I said.
Are there any questions for Senator Jones? Seeing none, thank you very much. Letter G, open forum. Are there any senators wishing to address the St. Ben Senate today? Senator Ricker.
Hello ladies, I have an update for you all about what I've been working on recently. First of all, I'm meeting with Mayor Rick along with my counterpart on Tuesday to update him on what we've been working on, and also telling him our goals for this year. And I'm also going to invite him to come to one of our meetings so he can update us on what the city has been doing. So let me know if you have any specific comments for him, and I will share them with him. And then another thing I am doing is a senior, Benny, reached out to us to create a 24-hour prayer space for students to use. So I'm going to be helping her with that, and we're going to work with campus ministry too. And then the last thing I have is we're going to start our first year leadership program, similar to what St. John's does, along with a few senators. With that, I return my time.
Senator Robinson.
So just jumping off what Senator Ricker just said, myself as well as Senator Lynn are working on our Betty SLE program. We've kind of started to finalize the different events that we do want to happen, so we will be reaching out to some of you soon to help us lead some of those. Wendy's was particularly especially financial responsibility, as well as President Steinberg for the debate workshop. Also, Betty Closet donation day is tomorrow from 6 to 9, so even if you just want to come support or don't have your clothes again, it'd be nice to see some familiar faces. And then lastly, on Friday, I will be attending the food committee meeting with my counterparts in McGee so we can work out some logistics with the sex and time changes. So if you guys have any opinions on that, please send them to me so I can give them a document with any opinions. And I return my time.
Treasurer Tate.
I have a question.
My turn.
What time, where's the location for the donation?
Oh, so it'll be in the HCC loop by Chair Stokes' space in that area. Where they have the pictures at Ocon's.
The atrium.
Atrium. Oh, that's the atrium.
I return my time.
Senator Simonette.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for all that you do as senators. I must say that. I think that everyone deserves a thank you. Second of all, I went to an amazing conference over a long weekend. It was the ASHE conference, so that's Sustainability in Higher Education. And I learned a ton. All the sessions I went to were about diversity and sustainability, and social sustainability, and thinking of sustainability as economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, political sustainability, and social sustainability. So I went to sessions about how to converse with conservatives that don't believe in climate change, how important values are rather than facts, and I learned a lot. And I was thinking, okay, what am I going to take away from this? We also talked about leadership and like sustainability and student leadership, and I see that my time is like semesters go by too quickly. And so I was like, what do I do with my remaining time? And the green fee is what I am choosing to do with my remaining time. It's going to be called sustainability fee, actually. But because I believe that all of our positions have to do with sustainability. And so often we think about it as like, yes, I mean, it's bringing the mug and everything to the meetings. It is all those things, it's riding your bike. But it's also how are we going to continue to live? How are we going to continue to live as community? And I see that often there aren't enough resources for students. So I would like to propose the idea of a sustainability fund. So this would be optional for all students because I don't think we should impose anything on students. So it would be $5 for each semester. And then students can propose an idea anytime throughout the year. And then there would be a committee that looks through it, but there'll also be an event in the fall. That's like people will have iPads and things and can just send in ideas. And then the committee will look it over. And so the committee of students will be the ones controlling the money. It would be the sustainability representative, the women's empowerment representative, the cultural affairs representative, the treasurer of the St. Ben Senate, and the president. And I'm totally willing to change that, but I thought that showed a wide range of what sustainability truly means. And then there will also be faculty helping students to make the decisions. So that would be a grounds person and someone in the business office and sustainability office. So they will say, okay, is this fiscally responsible or not? But students will be the one voting at the end of the day. And I think that's basically it. But I will have a meeting with President's team to organize that, to do a survey to see if this is something that students really are in favor for. Something that's really important to me is how I will go about advertising this, because I truly want it to be something that is not about facilities. Because Bradson from facilities was saying, we can do things. Like if students just brought ideas to us as facilities, we would be able to implement it. So I'm seeing this fund as something more social, something of how do we truly talk to each other, how do we get rid of these divides that we have in our society, because that's also not sustainable. With that, I return the time.
Senator Elmy. Are there any other Treasurer Tate? Sure, you can just ask a question.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you know this, but sustainability's first representative does have a budget. And do you believe it'll be easier or better to use part of that fund to fund student ideas regarding sustainability, or do you still believe the $5 donations from students still more of a better use?
Yeah, I believe there should be additional funds also just for the social things. I think that for this senator, I also use it for like facilities and for those types of things. And I do think that as we think of sustainability more broadly, that both funds would be useful for the student body.
All right, thank you. Return to time.
Are there any other senators wishing to address the Senate? Seeing none, we will move on to Roman numeral 4, new business, letter A. Motion to allocate $3,745 for the Society for Applied Anthropology Conference.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Senator Weber and a second by Treasurer Tate. Senator Weber, your first speaking turn.
I think that this is an amazing opportunity and something that we have not done before. All of their projects, they talked about sounded super, they just are so intelligent and knowledgeable about this certain field, and I think that's really cool and brings a really unique perspective here, especially because the department is not big yet. However, it is a lot of money, so I would love to hear everybody's opinions about that.
The floor is now open for debate. Are there any senators wishing to debate this motion? That's what we want.
Okay, I didn't know if they had a PowerPoint, that was pretty.
PR Representative Webster.
I love that this is a new initiative, and I think it's always important to encourage new groups on campus to come do new things and get new experiences. So I really, really like that aspect of it. And to be completely honest, I wasn't aware that there is an anthropology major or minor here. That's very probably, but I think that it's important for them to get those educational experiences, and then be able to bring that back to campus to help kind of lift up this unique field of study.
Are there any other senators wishing to debate this motion? Treasurer Tate.
So currently, the entire request does follow our funding guidelines, but the only problem or dissent I may have regarding this motion is the fact that they might have a different place to look for funding. So I know I was discussing this with Trustee Angarag, that it's possible they could go to XPD. I don't know if that's possible, if that's a question that Advisor Tara could answer.
Go ahead and repeat that for me, I was reading your notes.
Is it possible that this group could ask for funding from from XPD?
They could certainly try. I mean, I think they can ask for money from wherever they might choose to ask money. There's just no guarantee that any of those places have additional money to give them. I return my time.
Are you on time? Oh, I was sorry.
Vice President Weekly.
I want to echo what Public Relations Representative Webster said and add a couple points. I also think that this research sounds so awesome and unique, and it's nothing like I've ever heard before, and I think that that's so cool. And I also really found it admirable that the majority of their money, although it is not guaranteed yet, is coming from the undergraduate research program or the undergraduate research department, and that they're not relying on the Senate for the majority of their money. And from what Yemi said, that it sounded like they were a shoe-in for the money. So I think that even if they didn't get the money, I would be open to hearing from them back again, because I think that this is exactly why Senate sits in our seats on Wednesday nights is to hear stuff like this. I think that this is like kind of goes right along with our mission of empowering all these women with all of their research that they have done. So I am in full favor of this motion. I return my time.
Senator Robinson.
In complete agreement with what VP Weekly just said. I also want to point out that they already have plans of what they're going to do when they come back here. They plan on going to Scholarship and Creativity. They plan on making this a reoccurring theme so that they can keep bringing these great opportunities to our school, as well as letting us know about the great opportunities they've had both abroad while at conferences. But like was mentioned, I am a little worried about them coming back, but $750 for this kind of opportunity doesn't seem like that much.
Trustee Angarag. Are there any other senators wishing to? Senator Pop.
I really like this idea of this trip for them. It sounds like a really cool educational opportunity for them. I'm a little concerned that they said it's really cool that it's going to be a recurring thing. I'm just concerned about if they're coming to us for, I think it's almost $4,000 now. In the future, costs are only going to go up, and are they going to keep coming back here for that cost, or are they going to be looking for a more sustainable way to fund their thing? I know that's kind of a thing for the future, but just something to keep in mind for that.
Are there any other senators wishing to debate this motion? Seeing none, we will move to vote. All those in favor of motion to allocate $3,745 for the Society for Applied Anthropology Conference, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 16-0-0. Moving on to letter B. Motion to allocate $8,450 to the Institute for Women's Leadership to help fund key events throughout the year.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Senator Robinson and a second by Vice President Weekly. Senator Robinson, your first speaking turn.
I am in full favor of funding this, especially since they've edited more to fit our guidelines and all the problems that we saw before are gone. Especially want to speak to Kyla and Jasmine speakers. I very much appreciate, especially as a cultural affairs chair, that they're bringing a diverse speaker to talk about diverse issues so that more people who aren't usually being represented on campus have a speaker and someone to look up to, that they're able to actually speak on their behalf and experiences that they're able or that they will be going through while in college. I understand it is a bit of an honorarium, however, for what these two women are going to bring, I think it's something that the campus can benefit from.
Here.
And I would like to see this there isn't that encouragement.
The floor is now open for debate. Are there any senators wishing to debate this motion? Seeing none, we will move to vote. All those in favor of motion to allocate $8,450 to the Institute for Women's Leadership to help fund key events throughout the year, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 16-0-0. Moving on to Roman numeral 5, announcements, letter A. The Joint Senate will meet on Wednesday, November 1st at 5 p.m. in Gretzky 204. The next meeting of the St. Ben Senate will be on Wednesday, November 8th at 5 p.m. And Senator Ricker will attend the next St. John Senate meeting on Monday, November 6th at 9:20 p.m. Moving on to Roman numeral 6, adjournment.
Second.
There's been a motion by Senator Robinson and a second by Trustee Angarach. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting is adjourned.